I read from Psalms 43 today, so you guys can go ahead and check it out. In summary, it's talking about a discouraged king, King David, who feels like going the way of the world. He's tempted to, but he holds on to God and hopes to walk the right way. Sometimes you're tempted to do the wrong thing because everybody around you is doing something wrong. Just remember, that's a shortcut, and there are consequences for it. But if you do the right thing, it'll always turn out to be for the good. So just remember that. Let's get into the boxing. We're going to talk a little bit about finesse boxing. It's called finesse boxing. Now, there's a channel called Fight Camp, and I listened to Fight Camp talk about how finesse boxing will not protect you in a street fight. Either Fight Camp is being extremely naive, or he is being deliberately deceptive. He says that finesse boxing will not protect you from a knife attack. And he talked about people who, his channel is for people who fight and have been involved in fighting. Let me tell Fight Camp this, because I have a background in Shidori Karate, okay? The closest thing to real martial arts in boxing is not the pressure fighter who keeps on getting hit in the face. If those were knives, he gets stabbed up in the face, okay? He gets stabbed up in his head. There's nothing beautiful about getting hit to the body and to the head, okay? And just because you like aggressive fighting does not necessarily equate to somebody winning a street fight, especially with knife blades. It doesn't. Further, the person who's seasoned in fighting, and I believe you me, all of these guys usually come from a street fighting background. Floyd Mayweather came from a street fighting background. You know, people don't want to give him his props. There ain't no way you punching that guy on his shoulder or in his body or taking them kind of punches he took against Marcus McDonough, against Shane Mosley, and stay standing if he didn't have some kind of street fighter in him. But at the highest level, I don't even talk about the wars they had in the gym. Let's not even talk about that. But for Fight's camp to say those statements, knowing and being involved in the fight game and in fights, is sad. Because, quite frankly, most of these guys came from off the streets. And what they do in the professional ring is they break it down into a science. And for anybody who knows anything, if you've watched Aikido, Steven Seagal movies, Aikido is actually a dance of peace. It's a peaceful dance. And fighting is basically a dance. But it can be used as a lethal weapon. But it's very finesseful. You look at Kung Fu, any form of Kung Fu, Wushu, it doesn't matter. They're very graceful in their movements, but it is extremely deadly. And defense into offense is what these things are based on. It's based on finesse. It's based on equilibrium between nature and oneself. It is the yin and the yang. It is the flow and the ebb. So for Fight Camp to talk about finesse boxing, he calls it the shoulder roll or whatever, as inferior to all out pressure fighting and direct fighting, and that's closer to street fighting, is baloney. Alright? It's complete baloney. And it's even shown in the ring where boxers continuously beat street fighters. I don't care how much instincts you got. Skills are always more important. You don't go into a war. You don't go into hand-to-hand combat. You don't go into a battle without some sort of strategic approach. In hand-to-hand battle, guys are trained in combat. And later on, as Bruce Lee taught you, you must be able to express yourself fully. Bruce Lee, he wasn't the greatest martial artist, but he's one of the more well-known martial artists in the world, was the finesse fighter. Finesse fighter. Wing Chun is all about finesse and control of energy. So I'm really shocked that Fight Camp would be so basic in his assessment of things. I usually respect his channel for the certain insights he gives, but on this one, trying to make an argument for GGG, trying to make these fickle arguments for Pacquiao, they just don't fly with me. Now, some nonsense about you can't block a blade with a shoulder roll. Actually, you do. It's called a cross strike. You catch the arm and you catch the wrist and you block the punch by causing the deflection of the punch upwards. So you strike upwards. It's like a shoulder roll. I'm amazed that this brother don't know this stuff, because it's natural for a human being to block a punch by throwing a punch upwards or throwing the blade of his hand upwards. Your hands are blades, they're knives. So to hear this kind of nonsense, in fact, in the extended blade, which is using weaponry, if you're using, say, a bow staff, or you're using a sword, okay, it's an extension of the blade of your arm that you use to block a punch. It is like a shoulder roll. Shoulder roll where you lean back and you deflect the punch upwards. So if this brother don't even know that, I mean, and he's saying you can't stop a knife attack with a shoulder roll. Actually, you can. You will hurt your shoulder, but in the process, you will stop a knife attack from hitting your vital organs. Most people, when they attack with a knife, they either attack straight or they hook. So if you can intercept the arm, the lever, before it hits you, you can block the punch, and you can also deflect, cause an equal opposite reaction, what we call the yang, so you can knock the knife out of their hands. If they have a gun, again, you can attack the wrist as they provide their attack, or extend the arm with the gun. But you must stay outside of the trajectory. Slick fighting again. You have to stay outside the line of fire, which means your head must slip the shot. The projectile is coming at you. You must slip outside the line or inside the line of the shot. Okay? You must be within range. These are all things with slick fighting. These are all things with finesse. If you are not close enough to your assailant or your adversary, you cannot strike him. Therefore, you cannot attack him. There are various forms of martial arts for inside fighting. There are various forms of martial arts for outside fighting. There are various forms of martial arts for mid-range fighting. There's various forms of martial arts for way out of the range fighting. There are ways to throw projectiles and missiles at your opponents. Okay? And different fighting styles have different advantages and disadvantages to them. I specialize in close fighting. If you are close to me, I will take you down. I can kill you if I want to, but I have enough control not to kill you. Alright? So, again, I listen to guys talk, and sometimes they amaze me when they try to bend the truth to make their argument. You need to be honest. You need to be straightforward when you're arguing. On that note, you guys have a great one.